As I said, I'm Sandra Nomoto. I'm one of the presenters here at the 2024 Vancouver Vegan Festival. I am on the Earth Save Canada stage. Welcome and hello. I'd love to get a show of hands of who here is vegan. All right, some folks in the bunch, amazing. Now there's one beautiful thing that unites us all, whether you do identify as vegan or an omnivore, and it's this: everyone's a marketer. If you've got a smartphone with a camera, congratulations, you're a marketer and you didn't need a degree or diploma to become one. In fall 2022, I published the world's first vegan marketing book, Vegan Marketing Success Stories, which you'll see at my table over there if you meet me afterwards. And it was featured in over 70 media and podcasts. And one of the top questions that I got from podcast hosts who did identify as vegan was, how do we get more people to go vegan? So I'm going to attempt to answer that for you today. Early last year, I came across a really complicated looking infographic from Faunalytics that summarized the results of two studies that they did in 2021, where they asked participants what made them initially transition to a 100% plant-based diet. And they combined those results with that of another large survey that VOMAD did in 2018 that asked folks what initially made them transition to become vegan. And I published a blog post with my own conclusions. So I'm going to share those with you today. My top 5 recommended tactics to get people to go vegan include: number 1, documentaries. The VOMAD survey said that Earthlings, Cowspiracy, and What the Health were the top 3 documentaries that got people to go vegan, and I absolutely recommend those selections. Earthlings was the one that got me started on my vegan journey in 2007. Next up, we have conversations with family or friends. Now, this is great news for those of you who are vegan, because just by speaking with your loved ones about why you're vegan, there's a good chance you'll influence their behavior. Now let's combine that with watching a documentary with your loved ones, and you have a pretty powerful formula. I'll give some examples on conversation starters later. Next up, we have number 3, social media posts, and I'll give some examples of those later as well. Number 4 are newspaper or online articles or blog posts. And number 5 are talks either in classrooms or at events like this. Now, my middle of the road, not as successful tactics to get people to go vegan include internet videos, handing out flyers, non-disruptive protests like the Cube of Truth that you may have seen in downtown Vancouver, following vegan celebrities, and books. And my least recommended tactics to get people to go vegan include disruptive protests. So these are things like pouring cow's milk on the floor of grocery stores, vandalizing government buildings, or pouring red paint on people wearing fur coats. Thankfully, we do not see too many fur coats nowadays. Now, I know this data is a few years old, but I honestly don't think too much has changed. As I said, Earthlings was the documentary that got me started on my vegan journey in 2007. And I watched many of the other documentaries that are out there, read a lot of books, followed a lot of vegan influencers, and finally gave up dairy, which was very likely the cause of a lot of my painful digestive symptoms. Now, I kind of lied when I said that we're all marketers because we've got smartphones with cameras. That's part of it. The other part of it is this. The Canadian government provides upwards of $8 billion in subsidies to the meat, dairy, seafood, and poultry industries. In the US and the UK, that number is in the double-digit billions. To give you an example of what this does, a 4-pack of Beyond Meat burger patties costs roughly $12 US. A 4-pack of beef patties costs $7 US, but without subsidies would actually be $30. Out of those billions of dollars that these industries receive, millions are spent on advertising campaigns. Now, grains, fruits, veggies, beans, legumes, nuts, seeds, they don't have these advertising budgets or publicists. So every time you see an ad from the Dairy Farmers of Canada, or one that says, "Get cracking," to promote eggs, or one that I've started to see in the last couple of months from Canadian Chicken, Those are your own tax dollars being redirected back at you to tell you to buy these products. The US and the European Union especially use these budgets on disinformation campaigns. And in the last few years, they've been successful in getting the media to report on stories about how unsustainable or unhealthy vegan products are, like plant-based milk. They've also attempted to get federal governments to ban terms like meat, cheese, or milk on the packages of vegan products. And so they've been using the media for decades to deceive us. So every time you also post a photo or video of these products, you're contributing to that deception. If there's one thing I want you to take away from my presentation today, it's this. Women control upwards of 93% of household spending, not just here in the West, but globally. That equates to $30 trillion US annually, and by 2030, that number is expected to be 40 trillion. Beyonce was not wrong. Women are the most powerful consumers on this planet, and therefore we are the most powerful marketers. Since 1980, Mothers Against Drunk Driving has been the primary organization bringing awareness to the dangers of driving under the influence of alcohol. They've been doing that for almost 50 years. Imagine if women got together and decided we wanted to feed our families whole food, plant-based diets, or wanted to move toward veganism. If more women in the world, or most women in the world, wanted to go vegan and did, the rest of the world would follow. Now I'm going to share with you 8 tips on having persuasive conversations with your peers and loved ones, or how you can just be a better marketer, whether you're a vegan or an omnivore, with mostly just your smartphone. And a lot of this information I'm going to share comes from Brian Cateman at the Reducitarian Foundation and Melanie Joy at the Center for Effective Vegan Advocacy. So tip number 1 is to connect to a real or perceived authority. We live in a world where people trust celebrities and influencers more than they do academics, scientists, and governments. So here's how we use that to our advantage. Show your association with a celebrity or influencer who is an ally for veganism. The other thing you can do is to create your own authority. How do you do that? You can publish a book. You can become a speaker. There's no mistake why I'm here, folks. I published a book 2 years ago, and now I'm here. You can also start a website, podcast, or YouTube channel like folks like Tabitha Brown, Daniel Morgan Jones, or Simon Hill have, who now have followers in the millions. Or you can simply share quotes from these folks about veganism, the importance of veganism, and eating plant-based on social media. Tip number 2 is to emphasize veganism as a lifestyle that a lot of people are working toward. So even though the actual number of vegans in the world is quite low, we're only 4% of the global population tops, people do what other people do. So for example, if there's 2 lines for the same food truck, but one of them is longer, people will join the longer line because there's a perception that they're going to get better food joining the longer line than the shorter line, even though that's not true. If you do identify as vegan, use the term everywhere possible. Use it in your social media bios, in your professional bios, and in your resumes, so we can start normalizing this term as a lifestyle that more people want to achieve. And focus on the positive aspects of the lifestyle. So for example, if you saw content around athletes during the Olympics, vegan athletes who won medals, did you share that content on social media? I know I did. Tip number 3 is to highlight sameness. So find a shared commonality between you and the person you're talking to. For example, if that person says, I ascribe to Meatless Monday, that is a great starting point for a conversation, even though that person might be far from becoming vegan. We need to start looking at people as potential vegan allies instead of people who are doing it wrong. When building a movement, it's not an all or nothing thing. Tip number 4 is to be likable. Now I know that's a very subjective thing. It's hard to know for sure what makes people like you, but kindness goes a long way. Vegans are known to be angry, and we have every right to be because we know what happens to animals in these industries. But the more that we highlight the benefits and the positive aspects of this lifestyle, instead of yelling at people online and being the vegan police, I think we'll have more luck in getting people to want to become vegan. Compliment people and celebrate their milestones. That's how you get people to like you. When you're meeting someone new, ask them a lot of questions to show that you care and that you're curious about them. That's how you find that shared commonality I talked about earlier. Stories are incredibly powerful, especially transformation stories. So whether that's your own vegan transformation story, that of a friend you have, or that of folks like Rich Roll, Kevin Smith, or Chuck Carroll who've had incredible physical or health transformations, that's the kind of content you want to share. People want to know the process of transformation instead of just content around facts and stats. Finally, lean into your superpowers. I am not the kind of activist who's going to protest in front of a slaughterhouse or try and rescue animals. I use my writing and speaking skills for this movement. That's another way you can be likable. Tip number 5 is to do nice things for people. This is so easy to do. You can buy a vegan snack for a friend, and people are likely to return favors and do what you want them to do when you're nice to them. For Christmas, I give the same 5 vegan food packs to all of my loved ones, and I never get any complaints. Tip number 6 is to make things easy and convenient for people. We really need to share less dead animal content online and more vegan content. So share your favorite vegan dishes, vegan restaurants, vegan friends, vegan celebrities, the list goes on. And if you are a parent and you do take your kid to the zoo or aquarium once a year, remember that you don't have to share that content. Instead, share when you take your family to the local animal sanctuary and show animals that are being saved instead of ones that are being consumed or exploited. Did you know that you can feed your family with less of a budget if you give them a whole food plant-based diet rather than if you had meat, dairy, seafood, or eggs on the plate? I love sharing deals that I find at the grocery store on vegan products. So you can also share deals you find at the grocery store or hacks that help you cook great vegan dishes in the kitchen. Tell your government representatives to endorse the plant-based treaty and shift our tax dollars away from animal agriculture and toward more plant and fungi-based industries. You can also tell them you want to ban ads on animal products the same way that residents of 2 Dutch cities did, whose bans are going to be implemented this year if they haven't already been. And here's how I make that easy and convenient for you. If you talk to me afterwards, or message me or email me on social media or through my website at Sandra Nomoto, I will email you or DM you my Google sheet of Vancouver, so municipal, provincial, and federal politicians. That's how I make it easy for you to contact our government representatives. Tip number 7 is to highlight scarcity. For whatever reason, us humans, we value rarity more than anything. So again, veganism is an exclusive club. We're only 4% of the global population tops, so you can use that to your advantage. If you're talking with somebody about climate change, here's what you can say. So eating animal products accelerates climate change. You can point out that many of our plants are at risk of dying because of climate change, including ones that produce coffee and cocoa beans. So if they like coffee or chocolate, that's not good news for them with climate change. You can say the global average temperature is expected to permanently hit the tipping point of 1.5 degrees Celsius as soon as 2026. That's less than a year and a half from now. Now, I haven't tried any of these conversation points myself, so if you do and if they work, please let me know, because to me, nothing is more scarce than time. Tip number 8 is to prompt people to do what you want them to do. So ask firm questions and get people to commit to something in the form of a question. For example, if somebody says, I'd like to eat less meat, ask them, how many days per week do you think you could do without meat? Because it gets them to start thinking about what they could possibly commit to. Highlight animal cruelty defenses. So a great example of this online is Elwood's dog meat. This is a website and social media accounts that are run by Molly Elwood in the US. Now, before you throw tomatoes at me, this is not a real farm or a real business. She gets a lot of negative comments online, on social media, and there's a phone number on her website that people can call in, and she literally gets death threats from people because they think she's selling real dog meat. You have to have a pretty thick skin to have a website like this. But if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll find the whole point of it is not to sell dog meat. It's to get people to think differently about other farmed animals that we eat, and think of dogs in the same way. Because most people think about dogs as a family member, and so maybe we should start thinking about other animals the same way. If you're talking with somebody who's interested in going vegan, resist the temptation to over-inform them. Keep their attention and just give them a few tips that they can take away. Facts don't sell an ideology. And finally, know when not to advocate. If your message isn't being welcome, save it for another day and place. So to recap those 8 tips. Number 1, connect to a real or perceived authority or become an authority figure yourself. Tip 2, emphasize veganism as a lifestyle that a lot of people are working toward. 3, highlight sameness. 4, be likable. 5, do nice things. 6, make things easy and convenient. 7, highlight scarcity. And 8, prompt people to do what you want them to do. I'm going to leave you with a quote from vegan Kathy Freston, who says, "The wellness of our world depends on your contribution." I don't say that to lay a burden at your feet, but to remind you of the depth and breadth of your power. You make a difference. What you do or don't do makes a difference. Thank you very much.